How will we get to the beach? One beautiful summer day, Roxanne decided to go to the beach. Everything she wanted to take with her could be counted on the fingers of one hand. The turtle, the umbrella, the thick book of stories, the ball, and, of course, her baby. But the car wouldn't start. "Then we'll have to take the bus to the beach," said Roxanne. But something couldn't go with them. What was it? The little green turtle. Animals weren't allowed on the bus. "We can't go to the beach without the turtle," cried Roxanne. "Then we'll ride our bike to the beach," she said. But something couldn't go with them. What was it? The orange spotted ball. The ball wouldn't fit on the bicycle. "We can't go to the beach without the ball," cried Roxanne. "Then we'll ride our skateboard to the beach," she said. But something couldn't go with them. What was it? The big yellow umbrella. Roxanne didn't have a free hand to hold it. "We can't go to the beach without the umbrella," cried Roxanne. "Then we'll ride our kayak to the beach," she said. But something couldn't go with them. What was it? The thick blue book of stories. The kayak was very wobbly, and the book might get wet. "We can't go to the beach without the book," cried Roxanne. "Then we'll fly in a balloon to the beach," she said. But something couldn't go with them. What was it? Roxanne's baby. He wouldn't climb aboard because he was afraid of flying. "We can't go to the beach without my baby," cried Roxanne. "He is more important than all the other things. I wouldn't go anywhere without my baby." Roxanne sighed. "How will we ever get to the beach?" Just then a farmer passed by with his horse and cart. He was on his way to the beach to sell cherries. So they piled aboard Roxanne, the green turtle, the big yellow umbrella, the thick blue book of stories, the orange spotted ball, and of course her baby. And they had a wonderful time. The end. The dot. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," she said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." Her teacher smiled. "Just make a mark and see where it takes you." Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. "There!" Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and said quietly, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. "Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name." The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was a little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. "Humph! I can make a better dot than that." She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A yellow dot, a green dot, a red dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the red. She discovered that she could make a purple dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors. "If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too." Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. He handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Please, sign it." The end. The Little Engine That Could. Chug, 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 puff, 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 ding dong, ding dong. The little train rumbled over the tracks. She was a happy little train, for she had such a jolly load to carry. Her cars were filled full of good things for boys and girls. There were toy animals, giraffes with long necks, teddy bears with almost no necks at all, and even a baby elephant. Then there were dolls, dolls with blue eyes and yellow curls, dolls with brown eyes and brown bobbed heads, and the funniest little toy clown you ever saw. And there were cars full of toy engines, airplanes, toys, jackknives, picture puzzles, books, and every kind of thing boys or girls could want. But that was not all. Some of the cars were filled with all sorts of things for boys and girls to eat. Big golden oranges, red-cheeked apples, bottles of creamy milk for their breakfasts, fresh spinach for their dinners, peppermint drops and lollipops for after-meal treats. The little train was carrying all these wonderful things to the good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain. She puffed along merrily. Then, all of a sudden, she stopped with a jerk. She simply could not go another inch. She tried and she tried, but her wheels would not turn. What were all those good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain going to do without the wonderful toys to play with and the good food to eat? "Here comes a shiny new engine," said the funny little clown who jumped out of the train. Let us ask him to help us." So all the dolls and toys cried out together, "Please, shiny new engine, won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine has broken down, and the boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the shiny new engine snorted. "I pull you? I am a passenger engine. I have just carried a fine big train over the mountain with more cars than you ever dreamed of. My train had sleeping cars with comfortable berths, a dining car where waiters bring whatever hungry people want to eat, and parlor cars in which people sit in soft armchairs and look out of big plate glass windows. I pull the likes of you? Indeed not." And off he steamed to the roundhouse, where engines live when they are not busy. How sad the little train and all the dolls and toys felt. Then the little clown toyed out. "The passenger engine is not the only one in the world. Here is another engine coming, a great big strong one. Let us ask him to help us." The little toy clown waved his flag, and the big strong engine came to a stop. "Please, oh please, big engine," cried all the dolls and toys together, "won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine has broken down, and the good little boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the big strong engine bellowed, "I am a freight engine. I have just pulled a big train loaded with big machines over the mountain. These machines print books and newspapers for grown-ups to read. I am a very important engine indeed. I won't pull the likes of you." And the freight engine puffed off indignantly to the roadhouse. The little train and all the dolls and toys were very sad. "Cheer up," cried the little toy clown. "The freight engine is not the only one in the world. Here comes another. He looks very old and tired, but our train is so little. Perhaps he can help us." So the little toy clown waved his flag, and the dingy, rusty old engine stopped. "Please, kind engine," cried all the dolls and toys together, "won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine has broken down, and the boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the rusty old engine sighed. "I am so tired. I must rest my weary wheels. I cannot pull even so little a train as yours over the mountain. I cannot, I cannot, I cannot." And off he rumbled to the roundhouse chugging, "I cannot, I cannot, I cannot." Then indeed the little train was very, very sad, and the dolls and toys were ready to cry. But the little clown called out, "Here is another engine coming, a little blue engine, a very little one, but maybe she will help us." The very little engine came chugging merrily along. When she saw the toy clown's flag, she stopped quickly. "What is the matter, my friends?" she asked kindly. "Oh, little blue engine," cried the dolls and toys, "will you pull us over the mountain? Our engine has broken down, and the good boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us. Please, please help us, little blue engine." "I'm not very big," said the little blue engine. "They use me only for switching trains in the yard. I have never been over the mountain." "But we must get over the mountain before the children awake," said all the dolls and toys. The very little engine looked up and saw the tears in the doll's eyes, and she thought of the good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain who would not have any toys or any good food unless she helped. Then she said, "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can," and she hitched herself to the train, the little train. She tugged and pulled and pulled and tugged, and slowly, slowly they started off. The toy clown jumped aboard, and all the dolls and the toy animals began to smile and cheer. Puff, puff, chug, chug, went the little blue engine. "I think I can, I 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 think I can." Up, 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 faster and faster and faster the little engine climbed, until at last they reached the top of the mountain. Down in the valley lay the city. "Hooray! Hooray!" cried the funny little clown and all the dolls and toys. "The good little boys and girls in the city will be happy because you helped us, kind little blue engine." And the little blue engine smiled and seemed to say, as she puffed steadily down the mountain, "I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could." The end. This way, Ruby. Once upon a time, upon a nest, beside the lake, there lived a family of ducks, a mother duck, a father duck, and 5 young ducklings. 4 of the ducklings were big and bold, and were always rushing off in search of an adventure. Their names were Rufus, Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca. But the 5th duckling was small and steady, and took things slowly in her own time, and her name was Ruby. It was a bright spring day, and Mother Duck and Father Duck were snoozing in the sun. "Let's go and explore," said Rufus, running down, splash, into the water. Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca ran straight after him, but Ruby stayed by the nest. "This way, Ruby," called the others. Ruby didn't want to be left behind, so she swam after them. Ruby caught up with them at the edge of the reed beds. Rufus, Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca raced on through a gap in the tall green stems. But Ruby stopped to look around. She saw a small waterfall that sparkled in the sun, and a great golden fish that glimmered in the depths. "Look!" said Ruby, but the others did not stop. "This way, Ruby," they called. Ruby joined the other ducklings in the middle of the reed beds. Rufus, Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca rushed off down the winding waterway. But Ruby stopped to look around. She saw the water lilies with their bright purple flowers, and 4 fat frogs that lay lazing on the leaves. "Look!" said Ruby, but the others did not stop. "This way, Ruby," they called. Ruby found the other ducklings at the far side of the reed beds. Rufus, Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca ran straight up the grassy bank. But, once more, Ruby stopped to look around. She saw the dragonflies that wove along the waterline, and the willow tree that bent across the bank. And she saw the big black storm cloud that was sweeping across the sky. "Look!" said Ruby, but the others did not stop. "This way, Ruby!" they called. Rufus, Rory, Rosie, and Rebecca were rambling through the long grass when a flash of lightning lit the sky above them and a crash of thunder filled the air. "This way!" they cried, and they all ran off in different directions and then ran back again. They were lost, and they were scared, and they wanted to go home, but they didn't know which way to go. The ducklings huddled together anxiously as something rustled through the grass. It was Ruby. Ruby was scared too, but she did know which way to go. She spotted the top of the willow tree sticking up above the long grass. "This way!" she called. Ruby led the other ducklings down the bank and out onto the water. Then she spotted the bright purple flowers floating among the reeds. "This way!" she called. Ruby arrived at the water lilies and stopped. The water wound off in many directions, and they all looked the same. She could not see which way to go. "Which way, Ruby? Which way?" cried the other ducklings, as the big black storm cloud moved across the sun. "Shush!" said Ruby. Then she swam around slowly until she could just hear it, the gurgling of the waterfall. "This way," she said, following the sound. "Where have you been?" called Father Duck, as the ducklings popped out of the reed beds. "We had an adventure," panted Rufus. "And we got lost," gasped Rory. "But Ruby found us," added Rosie, "and brought us home," Rebecca said. "Well done, Ruby," said Mother Duck proudly. But Ruby had already gone. The storm cloud had moved off, but Ruby felt that they'd done enough exploring for one day. It was time to go home. "This way, everyone," she called. The end. Days with Frog and Toad by Arnold LaBelle. Tomorrow. Toad woke up. "Drat," he said. "This house is a mess. I have so much work to do." Frog looked through the window. "Toad, you are right," said Frog. "It is a mess." Toad pulled the covers over his head. "I will do it tomorrow," said Toad. "Today I will take life easy." Frog came into the house. "Toad," said Frog, "your pants and jacket are lying on the floor." "Tomorrow," said Toad from under the covers. "Your kitchen sink is filled with dirty dishes," said Frog. "Tomorrow," said Toad. "There is dust on your chairs." "Tomorrow," said Toad. "Your windows need scrubbing," said Frog. "Your plants need watering." "Tomorrow," cried Toad. "I will do it all tomorrow." Toad sat on the edge of his bed. "Blah," said Toad. "I feel down in the dumps." "Why?" asked Frog. "I am thinking about tomorrow," said Toad. "I am thinking about all of the many things that I will have to do." "Yes," said Frog. "Tomorrow will be a very hard day for you." "But Frog," said Toad, "if I pick up my pants and jacket right now, then I will not have to pick them up tomorrow, will I?" "No," said Frog, "you will not have to." Toad picked up his clothes. He put them in the closet. "Frog," said Toad, "if I wash my dishes right now, then I will not have to wash them tomorrow, will I?" "No," said Frog, "you will not have to." Toad washed and dried his dishes. He put them in the cupboard. "Frog," said Toad, "if I dust my chairs and scrub my windows and water my plants right now, then I will not have to do it tomorrow, will I?" "No," said Frog, "you will not have to do any of it." Toad dusted his chairs. He scrubbed his windows. He watered his plants. "There," said Toad. "Now I feel better. I am not in the dumps any more." "Why?" asked Frog. "Because I have done all that work," said Toad. "Now I can save tomorrow for something that I really want to do." "What is that?" asked Frog. "Tomorrow," said Toad, "I can just take life easy." Toad went back to bed. He pulled the covers over his head and fell asleep. The end. The Kite. Frog and Toad went out to fly a kite. They went to a large meadow where the wind was strong. "Our kite will fly up and up," said Frog. "It will fly all the way up to the top of the sky." "Toad," said Frog, "I will hold the ball of string. You will hold the kite and run." Toad ran across the meadow. He ran as fast as his short legs could carry him. The kite went up in the air. It fell to the ground with a bump. Toad heard laughter. 3 robins were sitting in a bush. "That kite will not fly," said the robins. "You may as well give up." Toad ran back to Frog. "Frog," said Toad, "this kite will not fly. I give up." "We must make a second try," said Frog. "Wave the kite over your head. Perhaps that will make it fly." Toad ran back across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. The kite went up in the air and then fell down with a thud. "What a joke!" said the robins. "That kite will never get off the ground." Toad ran back to Frog. "This kite is a joke," he said. "It will never get off the ground." "We have to make a third try," said Frog. "Wave the kite over your head and jump up and down. Perhaps that will make it fly." Toad ran across the meadow again. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. The kite went up in the air and crashed down into the grass. "That kite is junk," said the robins. "Throw it away and go home." Toad ran back to Frog. "This kite is junk," he said. "I think we should throw it away and go home." "Toad," said Frog, "we need one more try. Wave the kite over your head. Jump up and down and shout, 'Up, kite, up!'" Toad ran across the meadow. He waved the kite over his head. He jumped up and down. He shouted, "Up, kite, up!" The kite flew into the air. It climbed higher and higher. "We did it!" cried Toad. "Yes," said Frog. "If a running try did not work, and a running and waving try did not work, and a running, waving, and jumping try did not work, I knew that a running, waving, jumping, and shouting try just had to work." The robins flew out of the bush, but they could not fly as high as the kite. Frog and Toad sat and watched their kite. It seemed to be flying way up at the top of the sky. The end. Shivers. The night was cold and dark. "Listen to the wind howling in the trees," said Frog. "What a fine time for a ghost story." Toad moved deeper into his chair. "Toad," asked Frog, "don't you like to be scared? Don't you like to feel the shivers?" "I am not too sure," said Toad. Frog made a fresh pot of tea. He sat down and began a story. "When I was small," said Frog, "my mother and father and I went out for a picnic. On the way home we lost our way. My mother was worried. 'We must get home,' she said. 'We do not want to meet the old dark frog.'" "Who is that?" I asked. "A terrible ghost," said my father. "He comes out at night and eats little frog children for supper." Toad sipped his tea. "Frog," he asked, "are you making this up?" "Maybe yes and maybe no," said Frog. "My mother and father went to search for a path," said Frog. "They told me to wait until they came back. I sat under a tree and waited. The woods became dark. I was afraid. Then I saw 2 huge eyes. It was the old dark frog. He was standing near me." "Frog," asked Toad, "did this really happen?" "Maybe it did, and maybe it didn't," said Frog. Frog went on with the story. The dark frog pulled a jump rope out of his pocket. I am not hungry now, said the Dark Frog. I have eaten too many tasty frog children, but after I jump rope 100 times, I will be hungry again. Then I will eat you. The Dark Frog tied one end of the jump rope to a tree. Turn for me, he shouted. I turned the rope for the Dark Frog. He jumped 20 times. I am beginning to get hungry, said the Dark Frog. He jumped 50 times. I am getting hungrier, said the Dark Frog. He jumped 90 times. I am very hungry now, said the Dark Frog. What happened then? Asked Toad. I had to save my life, said Frog. I ran around and around the tree with the rope. I tied up the old Dark Frog. He roared and screamed. I ran away fast. I found my mother and father, said Frog. We came home safely. Frog, asked Toad, was that a true story? Maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't, said Frog. Frog and Toad sat close by the fire. They were scared. The teacups shook in their hands. They were having the shivers. It was a good, warm feeling. The end. The hat. On Toad's birthday, Frog gave him a hat. Toad was delighted. Happy birthday, said Frog. Toad put on the hat. It fell down over his eyes. I am sorry, said Frog. That hat is much too big for you. I will give you something else. No, said Toad. This hat is your present to me. I like it. I will wear it the way it is. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad tripped over a rock. He bumped into a tree. He fell into a hole. Frog, said Toad, I can't see anything. I will not be able to wear your beautiful present. This is a sad birthday for me. Frog and Toad were sad for a while. Then Frog said, Toad, here is what you must do. Tonight, when you go to bed, you must think some very big thoughts. Those big thoughts will make your head grow larger. In the morning, your new hat may fit. What a good idea, said Toad. That night, when Toad went to bed, he thought the biggest thoughts that he could think. Toad thought about giant sunflowers. He thought about tall oak trees. He thought about high mountains covered with snow. Then Toad fell asleep. Frog came into Toad's house. He came in quietly. Frog found the hat and took it to his house. Frog poured some water on the hat. He put the hat in a warm place to dry. It began to shrink. That hat grew smaller and smaller. Frog went back to Toad's house. Toad was still fast asleep. Frog put the hat back on the hook where he found it. When Toad woke up in the morning, he put the hat on his head. It was just the right size. Toad ran to Frog's house. Frog, Frog, he cried, all those big thoughts have made my head much larger. Now I can wear your present. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad did not trip over a rock. He did not bump into a tree. He did not fall in a hole. It turned out to be a very pleasant day after Toad's birthday. The end. Alone. Toad went to Frog's house. He found a note on the door. The note said, Dear Toad, I am not at home. I went out. I want to be alone. Alone? Said Toad. Frog has me for a friend. Why does he want to be alone? Toad looked through the windows. He looked in the garden. He did not see Frog. Toad went to the woods. Frog was not there. He went to the meadow. Frog was not there. Toad went down to the river. There was Frog. He was sitting on an island by himself. Poor Frog, said Toad. He must be very sad. I will cheer him up. Toad ran home. He made sandwiches. He made a pitcher of iced tea. He put everything in a basket. Toad hurried back to the river. Frog, he shouted, it's me. It's your best friend, Toad. Frog was too far away to hear. Toad took off his jacket and waved it like a flag. Frog was too far away to see. Toad shouted and waved, but it was no use. Frog sat on the island. He did not see or hear Toad. A turtle swam by. Toad climbed on the turtle's back. "Turtle," said Toad, "carry me to the island. Frog is there. He wants to be alone." "If Frog wants to be alone," said the turtle, "why don't you leave him alone?" "Maybe you are right," said Toad. "Maybe Frog does not want to see me. Maybe he does not want me to be his friend any more." "Yes, maybe," said the turtle as he swam to the island. "Frog!" cried Toad, "I am sorry for all the dumb things I do. I am sorry for all the silly things I say. Please be my friend again." Toad slipped off the turtle. With a splash he fell in the river. Frog pulled Toad up onto the island. Toad looked in the basket. The sandwiches were wet. The pitcher of iced tea was empty. "Our lunch is spoiled," said Toad. "I made it for you, Frog, so that you would be happy." "But Toad," said Frog, "I am happy. I am very happy. This morning when I woke up I felt good because the sun was shining. I felt good because I was a frog. And I felt good because I have you for a friend. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to think about how fine everything is." "Oh," said Toad, "I guess that is a very good reason for wanting to be alone." "Now," said Frog, "I will be glad not to be alone. Let's eat lunch." Frog and Toad stayed on the island all afternoon. They ate wet sandwiches without iced tea. They were two close friends sitting alone together. The end. Good night, my love. Sweet dreams.